Good morning, fabulous fives. Welcome back to another maths lesson with Mr. Travis. So glad to see you this morning. Hope your times table challenges are going well. Yesterday when I was teaching that lesson and we had all those big words, I had one of those moments partway through the lesson when I just thought to myself, my goodness, these big words are so confusing. And I think if I was a student listening to this lesson, I'd also be confused. So I did want to go over those again today. We are going to add in a new law. So we've got the commutative law from yesterday, the associative law, and today we're going to add the distributive law. All very useful, but those big words that sound so confusing, those are not really important. What is important is that you learn how to use those laws to make maths easier for yourselves. So hopefully today's lesson will clear up any confusion anyone had from yesterday, and you'll be able to use those laws effectively to make your maths easier. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, you want to ask me anything, you can email me, grade5@worksheetcloud.com. And after the lesson, there's the link above this where there's a worksheet you can click on, and you can check to see whether you've understood and mastered what it is we've covered in the lesson. So the top one is the one we're adding today, the distributive law, or the distributive property. Associative and commutative are the ones we did yesterday, which we're going to go over again today. So our recap of yesterday, on the left, we looked at the associative law, which works for either all pluses or all multiplication. We can add or times different things first and still get the correct answer. So if we had 3 times 4 times 5, we could do the 3 times 4 first and get 12, and then 12 times 5 gives you 60. Or, if you look at the right-hand side, we could do the 4 times 5 first to get 20, and then times that by 3 and get 60. Same answer, doesn't matter which way around you do it. So that works for plus or for times. Then we looked at the commutative law, which is plus or times as well. And that means we can change the order and we still get the same answer. So if you do 3 plus 4, you get 7. If you do 4 plus 3, you also get 7. So whichever way around is easiest for you, you can switch them around and it'll still give you the same answer. Today, we're going to confirm our understanding of the associative and commutative properties, that big A word and the big C word. And we're going to learn about a very useful one called the distributive property. This is probably the most useful of the three. Very useful. Let's have a recap of the first two. And then we'll look at yesterday's homework, which was practicing those two. So the commutative was the easiest. We'll start with that one. And that is you can change the order and you still get the same answer. So whether we have 5 times 6, we get 30, or if we go 6 times 5, we get 30. Particularly useful if one of your times tables is better than the other. The big A word also only works with plus or times. And that means, and this rule says that you can choose which part of the problem to do first and you'll still get the right answer. So I tried to use different colors to make this work. So let me go through it and you'll see. So in the one on the left-hand side, I did 3 plus 4 plus 6, and I did the 3 plus 4 first. So yellow and red become orange. So 3 plus 4 is 7, and I left the 6 alone. So then if we get 7 plus 6, we get 13. In the second one, I left the 3 alone, and I did the 4 plus 6. So red and blue make purple. That purple's a little bit dark. I hope you can see it. And then 3 plus 10 gives you 13. And finally, on the right-hand side, what I did was I added the yellow 3 and the blue 6 to give me a green 9. And I left the 4 alone, and I added that afterwards, and I got the same answer. So you can choose which part you want to do first, when it's all plus or when it's all times. Will still give you the same answer. At this point, before we look at our new rule for today, I'm going to jump across and look at our homework from yesterday as a way of doing some revision of those two laws that we're just looking at now. Looking at the first one, I gave you an example of how I wanted to set it out. So for the first one, we can say 5 plus 14 is 19. And then next to it, we're going to write it the other way around, because we're looking at the commutative law where you switch it around. And that also equals 19. So there's your answer. For the next one, using times, 9 times 5 is 45. I hope your times tables are good, but if not, you can sit and work it out. It does take a little longer. If 5 times 9 was easier, you could have written it this way, and you will get the same answer. So commutative, doesn't matter what order you do it, you get the same answer. Looking down at the next one, looking at the associative property, meaning you can do it in either way. I'll do A in green and B in a different color. So let's do them side by side. So first I'm going to do 4 plus 3 plus 7. I'm going to do the 4 plus 3 first, which gives me 7. That other 7 stays the same, and that gives me 14. Next to that, I'll do 4 plus 3 plus 7. This time, I'm going to do the 3 plus 7 first to get 10. Leave my 4 alone, and I get 14. So I've solved that in the two ways that it asked. I'll do B in red or pink, whatever color that is. So first up, I'm going to do 3 times 2 times 8, and next to it, 3 times 2 times 8. There would be a third way you can do this one, but I suspect most of you would have done it these two ways. So for this one, I'm going to do my 3 times 2 first, so 6 times 8, which gives me 48. On this side, I'm going to do my I'm going to do this part first, 16. 3 times 16 is 48. So both of those are the same. If you did the third one and you're not 100% sure, you can email me and ask me for the third one. Looking down at our next set of questions, said solve these as simply as you can. I deliberately made them in ways that one way would be easier than the other, but you can choose any way you'd like to do it as long as you get the correct answer. So you just have to pick one way. So if I look at A, 8 plus 3 plus 17, it looks to me like adding those two would give me a nice round number. So that's what I'm going to do first. 8 plus 20, which gives me 28. Let's do B. 2 times 3 times 9. For this one, I definitely think that 2 times 3 would be the easiest start. So 2 times 3 is 6. Leave my 9 alone. 6 times 9 is 54. That's why knowing your times tables is so important. C. 4 plus 7 plus 16. What I notice for this one is that if I put these two together, the 4 and the 16, I'm going to get a nice number. So 4 plus 16 gives me 20. I'm going to leave my 7 alone. Now I add them together, 27. For D, 6 times 4 times 5. Notice that I always write out the question as well. It's a good habit to get into. If your teacher is marking it, it gives them the opportunity to see whether you made a mistake, for example, in just copying down the incorrect question, and perhaps you'll get a method mark, but at least then they can follow your process and see where you made a mistake. For this one, I would say that 4 times 5 is a nice number. It gives me 20, so I'm going to do that part first. And then on this side, I'm going to go 6 times 20. And remember that sneaky little trick I taught you with dropping the 0. So we can just put the 0 down there. And now I can do 6 times 2, which gives me 12. And if I've got my 0 there, then I've got my answer as well. Just going to give my internet a chance to catch up. I've drawn it on my iPad, but it hasn't shown up yet over there. Okay, my internet has caught up. There we go. So you can see we just dropped the 12 down, and that gave us the same answer just with the naught on, so 6 times 20 is 120. Looking at question E, we have 5 plus 4 plus 26. And I notice that if I put those two together, I get a nice number, so I'm going to leave my 5 alone. 4 plus 26 gives me 30. The more you play around with numbers, the better your mental arithmetic, the better your times tables, the more you'll see the things that end up as nice numbers. So that is, as I keep saying, it's the basis of good maths, is knowing your arithmetic and knowing your times tables. That is what's going to make you a good mathematician. It's going to make maths easy for you, or if you don't do it, it's going to make maths a struggle. So make sure you spend some time on your mental arithmetic and your times tables. 5 plus 30 is 35. Last question. Let's go purple again. Nah, let's go for red. Okay, if 4 times 5 times 10, I think it doesn't really matter which way you do this one, but perhaps let's do that part first. So 4 times 50, because 5 times 10 is 50, that's a nice easy one. I can use the fact that my 0 is on the end there, I drop him straight down, and instead of doing 4 times 50, I now do 4 times 5, which is 20, and my answer is then 200. So those were the ones from yesterday using the associative and distributive law. The names are not important. You just need to know that if it's times and plus, like we had at the top, up here, you can just change the order and your answer will be the same. And when you've got 3 terms or more, and it's all plus or all times, you can do any order and you will still get the right answer. So you just pick the order that's the easiest for you. Distributive, this is the new one for today. And unlike the other two, which looked at either all plus or all times, this one you use when you've got plus and times. To say the rule is a little bit complicated. When you look at it with numbers, it'll make much more sense. And this, for me, is the most important of these 3 rules. It's the one that I definitely use the most in my mental maths. Right. The law is that you can multiply out different parts of a sum is a plus problem, and get the correct answer. So over here, I've got this. Let's look at this one first. I've got 5 times 3 plus 4. So 3 plus 4 is 7, and then I can say 5 times 7, which is 35. Or, alternatively, I can break this up and I can first multiply the pieces and then put it together. So 5 times 3 over here, and then 5 times 4 over here. Notice that there's still the plus sign in the middle. I'm doing the 5 times 3 first, and then the 5 times 4. Then I work out each of the pieces separately. I get 15 for 5 times 3 and 20 for 5 times 4, and when I add those together, I get 35. When we do some examples, I think you'll see how useful this can be. It's actually not so useful in using it this way. It will become later on in your school career. But for now, it's most useful when you actually want to break things apart. And that's what we're going to practice on the whiteboard. First one we're going to do . Now, I don't know how many of you are able to do 3 times 90 just in your head. If you are, that's absolutely fabulous. Take a moment, see if you can work it out. I think probably most of you won't have that on the tip of your tongue, but we could break our 19 down into a 10 plus a 9. It's still 19. I've just put it into 2 pieces. I'm going to put the brackets around to show that those are 2 pieces of the same thing. Now I'm going to put my 3 there. And what I can now do is times out each of these pieces separately. So first I'm going to do 3 times 10. Very important. My plus goes there. Then I'm going to do 3 times 9. Let me work out my 3 times 10. That's easy. 30. Plus in the middle. 3 times 9. If your 3 times table is good, you can use that. If your 9 times table is good, you can use that. That's the commutative property if you change it around. 3 times 7, 27. Sorry, 3 times 9 is 27. Now that I've done that, I can add them together. I can see that my units is going to be 7, my tens is going to be 5, and there's my answer. So instead of having to worry about doing 3 times 19, I could break that up into 3 times 10 and 3 times 9, which is quite a lot easier. So it looks like I've done quite a lot of writing over here, and I have. And as you practice this, you'll be able to skip out some of these steps when you write it down. So I might, for example, have left out this step and then just jotted down 30 and 27 above and gone straight to the answer. That would have saved me some time. I might also have skipped out this step and gone straight from there to there, and then straight from there to there. But I would suggest that you just wait until you've got a good grip of this before you start worrying about leaving out steps. I find that often when you're not so sure, leaving out steps is what leads to mistakes. Let's do a second example. I'm going to put this one down, and I'd like you to give it a go first before I start. So for this one, let's do 4 times 16. So I'll give you about half a minute to get started with this one. And if you'd like to try and finish it, you can pause the video. Okay, if you're not yet finished and you'd like a bit more time, just pause the video. So I'm going to break down my 16 into a 10 and a 6. Then I'm going to first do 4 times 10. My plus will stay in the middle. Then I'm going to do 4 times 6. 4 times 10 is 40. 4 times 6 is 24. Adding those together shouldn't be too difficult. I've got a 4 in the units. I've got a 4 plus a 2 in the tens. There we go, 64. The next one I'm going to do, number 3, I'm going to do with the smaller number, or the times number, at the end. And then we will see that it doesn't matter which way around you do it, you can still get the same answer. So this time, let's do 37 times 6. Have a go with that one. This is the number that's easiest to break up. Right, if you'd like some more time, just pause the video. I'm going to go through it now. So I broke this one down into 30 times 6 plus, oh, sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. So this one is 30 plus 7 Then I said 30 times 6 plus 7 times 6. I'm going to use the fact that I've got this 0 here. I'm going to put him down there in my answer. And then I'm going to say 3 times 6, which gives me 18. So my answer to 30 times 6 is 118. 7 times 6, I hope your times tables are good, 42. Adding these two together, I've got just 2 in the units. I've got 12 in the tens, so I'm going to carry a 1. Remembering my 1 and adding this one, I now get 2. So there's my answer. 4, I think I'm going to do 6. We'll do 6 together, and then I've got one more just to show you that it can work with bigger numbers as well, just as effectively, and then we'll finish. So number 4, again, you're welcome to try and do this one on your own. Pause if you need some more time. I broke this one down into 40 and 9. I said 40 times 5 plus 9 times 5. Use my magic 0 story. 4 times 5 is 20. So the answer to 40 times 5 is 200. Plus 9 times 5, or 5 times 9, remembering using the commutative property, is 45. 200 plus 45 is 245. Question 5, the second last one for today. $33 times 7. I'll put down 6 at the same time. But if you'd like more time for number 5, just pause it quickly. This time I'm going to skip out doing that second step where I break down the 30 and the 3 into 30 plus 3, and I'm going to say this 30 part is there and the 3 part is there. So I have broken it up. The 30 is over here and the 3 is over here. I just skipped out writing that extra line in order to save a little bit of time. If you're still a little bit unsure about that, I would rather include that step for now. So using my sneaky method of the smiling 0, I drop that down and then I say 3 times 7 is 21. And so the answer to 30 times 7 is 210. I think maybe I'm going to spend a whole lesson on these sneaky numbers, these special things with zeros on. I think it's definitely going to save some time. But maybe you should already know that. Okay, plus 3 times 7 is 21. Adding those together shouldn't be a problem. 1 in the units, 3 in the tens, 2 in the hundreds. There we go. I think I'm going to jump straight into number 6. So pause the video if you'd like to try it yourself first. I'm just a little bit worried about running out of time. So 8 times 51, I'm going to break up the 51 into a 50 and a 1. And just to show you, because I'm skipping the step again, the 50 comes from there, and the 1 comes from there. So once again, using my sneaky naught from over there, I say 5 times 8, or 8 times 5 is 40. So the answer to 8 times 50 is 400. Plus 8 times 1 is 8. No prizes for 408 because 8 plus 400 is very easy to do. I did say that I was going to show you one where you use 3 numbers. It works exactly the same, but this time you break it down into 3 pieces. So this was number 7, 1, let's do it the other way around, 4 times 136. This time I am going to write out my different pieces. So I've got 4 times 100. I have 4 times 30. And I have 4 times 6, with my pluses in between. I'm going to work each of those out quickly. 4 times 100. Using my sneaky zeros, I just put them down there. So 4 times 1 is 4. So the answer to 4 times 100 is 400. Four times 30, I'm going to use the sneaky 0 again. So 4 times 3 is 12. So the answer to 4 times 30 is 120. 4 times 6, 24. Now I'm going to add those back together. So in my units, I have 4. In my tens, I have 40. So that's 4 and 2 and 2 is 4 for my tens. And in my hundreds, I have 1 plus 4 is 5. And so my answer to 4 times 136 is 544. And I think I would say quite safely that if you were having to do that problem, doing it this way is probably easier and more guaranteed of success than if you were working it out in your head trying to figure out what 4 times 136 is. So this is how we use the distributive law practically, what we've been saying. If, for example, you had 5 times 17, we could rewrite that as 5 times 10 plus 7, and then we can break that to 5 times 10 and 5 times 7. So you are distributing into the you're distributing, sorry, let me go back. You are distributing the 17 into 10 and 7, and then you're putting the 5 with each of them. So we have the 3 rules, the C1, the A1, and the D1. Remember, the names are not important, just how you use them and that you know you can. So for the C1 and the A1, it's either plus or times, not a mixture. And for the last one, the D1, it's when you've got times and plus together. So that's important. We never use these rules for minus and divide. It won't work. It will give you the wrong answer. I hope that makes a lot more sense and was a bit better explained than in the last lesson. If you still have questions about these 3 properties or these 3 laws, you can email me, grade5@worksheetcloud.com. And please click on the worksheet above just to check that you have definitely got this. Have a fabulous day, grade 5s. I look forward to seeing you again. Goodbye.